Yeah. Okay. And did you have another one? Yeah. Program attendance rate. So how would we measure that? Program attendance rate. Okay. So we would want, what would our weekly goal be? 80%. Okay. And who is responsible for that? Okay. And are there any more? So as of right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8. That's awesome. That's a great start. And remember, we're gonna come back to this weekly, and we can work on it and edit it and change it up as we become more efficient in understanding how the numbers work in our organizations and how do we see them as leading indicators. Then we'll become more efficient in creating those metrics. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And making sure, that these are measurable. That's very, very important. Yeah. Okay. So, how do you guys feel about this right now? Is there something else you want to talk about? Or do we feel good about this? Okay. That's great. I do see that we have one person missing, um, Jackie. Jackie, is there a key metric that we can put for you? What do you think about it? Hmm. Okay, so percentage of participants reporting positive life change. And how do you measure that, Jackie? Okay, so think through that. How do we measure that? Through the surveys? On surveys? Okay. And then what's the measurement for that? 75%? Okay, great. So now that we see that at least everyone is accountable for at least one key metric, and then again, this is 9 and we want 4 to 12. So this is a great start and we can come back to it. Great. Now, I just want to summarize that when you begin to actively use your scoreboard every week to track how you're doing on these key metrics, whether you're meeting the quantitative goals you set for yourself, every number will have only one person accountable. So as you see in the list of who is accountable, only one person is accountable for tracking it as well as reporting the number to the team in the weekly. And so your scoreboard doesn't have to be perfect for the first quarter or even the first year. You will continue to refine as you observe the numbers and become more relevant and matter most to creating lasting impact. So I wanted to show you guys an example. So let me go back on this screen, and then here is an example of the scoreboard that Life Remodel uses on the software that we created, which is Monday.com. And so as we see, the metric that they have on their scoreboard is new students in programming. So for their quarter, they want 54 and the weekly is 4.5. So you see how they had quarterly and then they had weekly. So if we go back to ours, we only had the weekly goal. So what do you think if we were to do quarterly goal? So if our weekly goal is 1, what would our quarterly goal be? Uh-huh. Yeah, let's do the math about it. So if there's 4 quarters in the year, that's going to be 3 months. And how many weeks are in a month? So 4 times 3, so roughly 12 weeks. So 1 times 12 is 12. Great. And let me change this again to being just play. Okay. So then, again, so we have the 12 weeks, 12 times 6, 72. Great. And this is going to help you measure. 3 times 12, 36. Okay. We have 12 again, 12 again. We have 72 again. Let's just get these on the same. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to have the 14,423 times 12, so 173,076. Great. And then we have 80%. So how do we measure that? Quarterly. Same amount? Okay. So how do we measure these numerically? Yeah, that's a really good question. So could we do, instead of the rate, could we just do program attendance? Yes, really good. So we're going to change this to program attendance. And instead of 80%, we're going to use an actual number. So how many people do we want to attend our program a week? Or let's start quarterly. How many people do we want quarterly? If we want quarterly 36 a quarter. So 36 divided by 12, so that's going to be 3 people a week. Okay? And this is in total or new? Total. Okay. Okay. Great. So number of people attending programs. Great. And then, again, looking at percentage of participants reporting positive life change, how does that, on surveys, how do we measure that numerically? Something to think about. Okay. So what if let's go to chat. Let's just see, what does that look like if we were to say, measure this numerically. Let's see what chat says. To numerically measure percentage of participants, follow this formula. Positive change is number of participants reporting over the number of total respondents times 100. So if we have a total of 250 and 175 responding, it's 70%. So instead of saying positive life respondents, what if we say total respondents of the surveys? What do you think about that? And then we can figure out, survey respondents. Okay. Respondents. There, forgot an S. Awesome. Okay. So if we want, how many people if we have 36 participating in 3 programs, do we want, all of that or less? Okay. So let's say maybe 20. 25. Okay, so if we want 25 each quarter, then it's going to be roughly around 2.08. Okay, awesome. So we see that these are now numerical. So when we go back to this example, we can see that in the software, they put the dates in the items, so it's a weekly, and then they measure it. They have the who, so you would mark who is accountable to who. So if it's you, Edson, if it's you, Jackie, or Melissa, or Mariah, you would put your name and your picture there, and then you would put the numbers, and then you'll see for the status if it's off track or on track. And every week in your weekly, you're going to assign, the person who's accountable will assign on track, off track, or done. Or so actually, no, this one is not going to, it's always going to be off track or on track. So it's either one or the other. Is it on track or off track? And you see up here, is new students in programming, 54 per quarter, that's 4.5 weekly. And so every single week you're gonna mark, is that on track or off track? So as you see, January 3rd had 0, so that's off track. January 10th had 1, so again, off track. January 17th has 12, so that's on track. It's great. And you see January 24th, also 45, on track. But let's say January 30th said 4 instead of 67. Would a 4 be on track or off track? Yeah, it would actually be off track. So even though our total numbers may be on the right track, for that week we are off track. So we would mark it as off track. And then the following week we would look at that again. Yeah? Does this make sense? Any questions? Great. So as we see, here is our running scoreboard, and we will change this, and maybe we would say number, to be a little more specific, number of survey response. Number of survey completions. Okay, so this is a great start. And so to summarize, we will use this scoreboard in our weekly meeting, and this is going to help us understand, are we being led as an organization with leading indicators, and are we able to respond to those and course correct as needed? And so that's really important. As you move forward, you're going to be able to do this, and you're going to get so good at it, you're going to excel, that you're going to be able to course correct pretty quickly and respond very quickly when you aren't. And you know, that's, as a team, you can look at it and discuss these. Hey, we see that maybe for 3 weeks in a row we are off track, and so that deserves a conversation, and that will move that to opportunities and next steps. And we're going to talk more about the weekly in a second, but just remember that every person who is marked as accountable for that scoreboard metric is the person who reports out on that. So they are the one who is accountable week by week for that. And so you will continue to refine what you observe. You can continue to change the numbers that are most relevant to your organization and help create that lasting impact. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So now we're going to go back and we're going to talk about the weekly. So this is such an incredible tool.